Welcome back to this week's YouTube video. I'm in my shed and I have to keep my voice down because my neighbours, I don't think they know what I do. They're gonna be like, she's talking to our camera in the shed. So you might remember a couple of videos back I decluttered the spider shed to try and make it, this is the world's tiniest shed. I actually think it's like 2 foot by like 1 foot. I actually don't know. No, that's like bigger than a foot, isn't it? I don't know, but it's tiny she shed. I cleaned out my shed, but I needed to, I'm wrecking it already. So I had decluttered and cleaned out my shed, but I needed to give it some pizzazz. Also, I got a double whammy flower subscription this week, so I was just taking pretty photos of them, which is why those flowers are there. They are not from my garden. I wish I had that abundance in my garden. So 2 things in this video. I planted a mini woodland underneath the tree that's beside my shed, and I gave this a bit of zhuzhin, popped up a shelf, popped in one of the units here. So I'm going to get straight into the video and stop waffling, and here's what I got up to in the garden this week. So here is my kind of unkempt wild fairy corner in the garden. You might have seen in a previous video that I had trimmed the tree, so underneath is just some like soil that I think would be good for shading shady and soggy loving plants. On a recent ramble with my friend Cameron, we went to Johnstown Garden Centre and I picked up a couple of plants. So I got some ferns. I don't know what the other 2 guys are. Basically, they had a section for plants that liked shade and soggy soil. So I just picked up about 5 or 6 of them, and that is my brother kindly helping me dig because there was no way I was digging this up. The ground is quite rooty from the tree. Is that a word? Rooty? So my brother loosened the soil, and then I just, like a good gaffer, positioned the plants and I got him to help me plant them. So I gave enough space in between them because I do have some seeds for some woodland anemones that I'm going to plant and let them germinate. So I'm hoping next spring I will have these woodland plants kind of established and some blossoms from the woodland anemones. I think I'm saying that right. I also just put a couple of bags of mulch over the soil, so I gave it a good soak in because it was actually quite sunny when we were planting this. So just to give the plants a bit of help, I popped some mulch down just to retain some of the water, and hopefully there's some nutrients in that as well, because I'm not sure like what my soil was like beforehand. But this is how the little woodland is looking, and hopefully over the next like couple of months those will grow and be happy. Anybody else have scaldy gardening runners, or is it just me? These are like years old, and they're just my gardening runners, but they're absolutely like, if I answered the door in these I feel like every gardener has them. So I'm loving how, also here's a cheeky little look at a project that I got. I'll talk to you about that later in the video, but I'm loving how it's starting to come together. So I know the weather isn't great today, but you can see in the corner my little woodland, and it's just much more tidier than like what it was. So my plan is I need to free up space for this house. It's for my niece and nephew, but I'm going to keep it in my garden. But I'm going to, over here I have this potting table, and I'm going to put it into the shed and use it because I keep all of like the plastic pots and stuff, but like it don't look cute. So I'm going to move this. This will free up space here, and then I'm going to move the little house so that it's here and it's sitting on the, I don't know if you can see the little tiles. I mean they're not great, but also bees are absolutely loving the heuchera. So that is my plan. So that potting table, well, it's not actually a potting table, but I think it's like a kitchen island type table thing from IKEA, and I've had it in my garden for probably 2 or 3 years. The top of it has just warped, but everything else is fine on it. So it's in good condition and it doesn't look like it's going to fall apart, so I'm going to use it in my shed. Originally I was going to just shelve the whole thing, but then I was like, no, I love this little table and I need to free up space, so I popped it inside of the shed. I hang on to all of those plastic pots that you get when you buy a plant from a nursery or a garden centre, and I use them for when I'm potting on my own seedlings, especially if I want to like gift some plants to people. So I try and retain those plastic pots, but I end up having too many. So I'm still going to keep them, but they'll be in the shed and they won't be blowing away in my garden, and it will just tidy everything up. I know some of the stuff that I'm potting on my table isn't necessarily aesthetically pleasing, but these are items that I use in my garden. So the likes of my petrol cans for my lawnmower and things like that. So I know it's not too pretty, but it's practical for me. Next thing I did was I just chopped up a pallet that I had to use the wood, and I made a shelf for the shed. I have some pots on it, but it's kind of more for like display purposes. But it is handy when you're potting if you need to like pop something up there. Also, that Kids Wendy house that you just seen, I got that for an absolute steal. Locally, €25, couldn't pass it. So I have it in the garden, and absolutely, you guys know I'm going to give that a makeover. The paint has arrived, it's sitting in front of me as I do this voiceover. So keep your eye on my channel. Probably next week or the week after I will have a cubby house makeover, or you can check out the one I did, was it 2 years ago? I did a wooden cubby house makeover, so you can check that out as well. So before I show you the end result of my she shed, I just want to remind you of what it was looking like a couple of weeks ago. So back in April, this is what it was looking like. I will put the video in the description if you want to check it out, or I will pop it here in a card as well if you want to check out that declutter video. Man, I tell you, see that bit of carpet? Oh, one of them ran out and I was like, oh. So that is how my she shed is looking. I did ask my brothers originally if I could move this shed over a foot, which I think I mentioned in the previous video, but when they touched, so the wooden structure of my shed is solid, which is good because it's really old, but the felt roofing crumbled a little bit. So he was like, my brothers were like, if you move this, it could like crumble and fall. I've noticed magpies picking at the roof, and I think they picked the felt and water has gotten down the felt, and it's not good. So we have left the shed where it is, and it gave me more space for my mini woodland. So my nephew is obsessed with worms and insects and digging, so that's the corner that I bring him to dig up his stuff, and it's still like I think dig friendly. So I've put down mulch just to make it look nice, but also just to retain some water for the plants. Once he doesn't dig up my plants, he does be supervised. He can happily kind of like dig. It's kind of like a magic corner now, and when I'm in the kitchen like washing the dishes and I look out, it's no longer like an eyesore, and I think next year it's going to come along really well. I also have seeds. I got some woodland anemones. Basically they grow wild in the woods that I visit, and I had posted a picture of them, and a girl on Instagram had said, oh, they're woodland anemones or whatever. So I looked them up. I couldn't get any here, so I ordered some seeds from the UK, and I got 3 different varieties, and some of them are like sow now. They seem to have long germination. So hopefully with the woodland anemones in the little gaps, they tend to come up in spring. They're from the ranunculus family. See, I sound like I know my stuff. So they're gonna come up hopefully next spring. So that corner should have a nice show, and then it will have like evergreen plants as well. And then last update is I'm not giving up on the hopes of a greenhouse. The problem with greenhouses at the moment is to do with supply issues, because of what's been happening, Penny D, Brexit, and everything else. But I'm like, I will wait. The plan is right next outside this window over there, that's where I want to have my greenhouse. I've literally emailed them today, like, because the money's burning a hole in my pocket. I'm like, take my money. So I have a guy, fingers crossed, coming on the 22nd of June to lay the concrete. And that man said you have to wait a week or 10 days before you can have your greenhouse. So I've emailed the greenhouse people. Like, I haven't put my deposit down yet. So I want to just buy it, and then I've asked can they deliver it and assemble it the first week of July. But I know even saying that's not going to happen. As in, it's probably going to take longer. But if we all just fingers crossed and light a candle, I should have a nice greenhouse for like prepping for autumn. It'll be so nice planning like what spring bulbs I want to do, what spring flowers, and then in spring it'll be nice to have somewhere to go and potter, plant my seeds, and not have windows full of seedlings. So I am keeping the dream alive. I am trying to manifest it. I have no other updates this week. Massive thank you for all the love on last week's bathroom renovation video. I love videos like that, and they do like really well. But if you have subbed from seeing that video, I don't do renovations all the time because they be pricey. But I hope you stick around and like what you see on the channel. And to my existing ladies, just thank you for all the love, like the kind comments that you guys leave on videos. They don't go unnoticed. I'm always trying to like heart and reply. Also, apologies for sounding a little bit nasally this week, which I know is kind of annoying, or it can kind of sound a bit sexy nasal voice. Cheeky thumbs up. Because I was hanging out with my niece and nephew, and I think I picked up a little head cold from them. I'm a bit sinusy this week. No other symptoms. It's not the other thing. So yeah, the perks of toddlers being back in creches. They sharing them germs. Anyway, that is me for this week. Cheeky thumbs up if you enjoyed my video. Let me know if you are finally kind of getting out to the garden. I know it's been a slow start this year. Slow start. The weather is definitely picking up now. It's warm in Ireland. Not always sunny, not always dry, but it's definitely warmer, hence the dresses are back out. Let me know what you're getting up to in the comment sections below, in the garden or just in general, and I hope you have a lovely weekend, and see you next time.